What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to this channel, my name is Dinul Kovida Perera and I'm a software engineering undergraduate of Java Institute, and I recently started making YouTube videos, and in these YouTube videos I share content which is mostly regarding the field of software engineering field. So if you are someone who's interested in software engineering field, this is the channel for you. So you can click on that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you will be notified by the latest content of this channel. So today we have question number 21 of the database management video series. So let's go check it out, guys. We have to give the final touches for question number 16, and here we are in question number 21, which has 6 main questions. So let's try them out one by one. So our first question is, let me just adjust the drawing frame. Okay, so here we have our first question. Our first question is, what is the highest mark obtained in the first term mathematics subject? So they are asking us the highest marks that the student has obtained for the first term, but only for the subject of mathematics. So I just open my SQL browser here. I'll just share the screen like this, so it's easy for you. So I have my database open, and these questions have been answered in the form of queries. So I have to write a single query which gives the answer for the question. So if you have been watching our videos, you know that if you have been observing our videos 16 to 20, you know that the marks we stored in a separate data table which is stored in exam_marks_db, which is called student_exam mark record. So all the marks are in that table. So that's the table I have to focus first. So select, I'm just going to filter one by one. Select all from exam. This is the database I have. exam_marks_db dot the table name I want. This is the table name I want. So I just give a semicolon to see the results. So I'll just maximize the screen. Now I know the question. I know I am supposed to find the highest mark that a student has gained for the subject of mathematics, but only for the first term. So these are all the details which are in the table. So let's first select the marks which has been obtained for both first term and second term, but only for the subject of mathematics. So you have to give a condition then, where so the subject ID, we have to select which subject has the ID of mathematics. So subject underscore ID in, especially I am going to use subqueries. If you don't know what is subqueries, you can check out. We have a separate video which we introduce subqueries in the form of question and answers. You can go check them out if you haven't. But if you don't have time, or if you are bored, you can still learn from this video if you carefully listen. So you have to select the subject_ID. I'll just quickly show you the subject table. This is the subject table I have. Just have to go to the data tab. I have the subject ID, so I have to select the subject ID which the subject name is mathematics. So we can't just write where subject ID equal 1, because we haven't been told the subject ID of mathematics. We are only told the name of the subject. So we have to find the subject ID from the same data table. Where now you can give the condition subject_name. The subject name is given to us. Subject name is mathematics. This is the subject. So let's see what happens once we run the query. Yeah, so highest. So this should be the subject table. So once you run this query, you get all the details. You get all the details together with the marks obtained for all the subjects. Sorry, marks obtained for the subject of mathematics for both the first term and the second term. You get all the details of the subject of mathematics, the marks for mathematics for both the first term and second term. Now what you have to do is you have to select the marks which are obtained only for the first term. Okay. Now we have to give another condition and exam underscore term underscore ID. This column should have only once because it is only the first term. In select term underscore ID. So I'll just show you the exam term table. This has the term ID. Select the term ID from exam underscore marks underscore DB dot the exam table where term underscore name. The term underscore name should be first term. First term. So let's run this query. Now you get all the details of the subject of the mathematics subject for the first term. Here, as you can see, it has only one in this column and one in this column. One in this column means in the subject table. In the subject table, for one is allocated mathematics. So you get all the marks for mathematics, and here one means the first term. So you get all the marks for mathematics for the first term. These are the marks for mathematics for first term. Now you have to select the highest marks out of these. So the highest mark is, if you can find the highest mark using this function, if you write mark here and run the query, you get only the marks. But if you write this, there's a separate function called max, and you can write the column table you need. Now if you write mark here, it will give the maximum value of this column. So let's run this query. So it gives max mark 90. So if you want this column named again, you just have to write it like this. Max mark, as we have to rename it as, you can write whatever you want. I'll just write here highest mark for mathematics for first term. Okay, it's a bit long, but that doesn't matter because you have the straightforward answer to your question. So that's how you find the highest mark from the table. Okay. Now let's check the other one. Our next question is, what is the highest mark obtained in the second term for the science subject? Okay. Now you can do that by ordering the previous question. You just have to alter only two values, because here is the second term. You can write here you have this first term, you can write here second term. So you get all the marks for mathematics for the second term. You get all the marks for mathematics for the second term. So once you write this query, this is the highest mark. So if you replace this with an all sign, that means asterisk sign, you get this. Just have to delete this part. and once you run the query, you get all the details for the subject of mathematics for the second term. But if you write here instead of mathematics, if you write science and run the query, you get all the details for the second term for the subject of science. The ID of science is 2, number 2. And if you write here mark and run the query, you get all the details of the marks of the relevant subject. That means here in this case it was science. But if you write here maximum, right in the previous case, and you write here maximum mark, that's 95. So the maximum mark for the second term for the science subject is 95. So you can rename the column as highest mark for science for the second term. Now I'll run this query and you get the total mark, the highest mark for the science subject for the second term. Okay. Now that's the answer for the second question. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay. Now two of our questions are done. So next we have, what is the highest mark obtained by the students for all the subjects in the second term? Okay. Now in this question, I'm just going to erase all of them. Then, as we did earlier, select all from. I'm just going to check all the marks which the students have scored. Exam underscore marks underscore db is the database. Dot. This is the table which has the marks record. Once I run this query, you get all the details of the students. So what they are asking is, they are asking the highest mark obtained by the students for all the subjects in the second term. So first I have to select the marks which are allocated for the second term only. Then, but not only one subject, they are asking the marks of all the subjects. Then I am supposed to find the highest value. Okay. Now I'll just maximize this. So I'll just try to write this input over here. Where exam term ID. It should be, you can write here equal instead of in, because you use in if you have one or more than one values which you should take. Now in the concept of subqueries, you may get one or two tables from the subquery. So in this case you get only one, but I'm used to writing in instead of equal marks, so I'll just carry on with in. But in this question it doesn't matter if you use equal or in. So I'll just open two brackets. When you're writing subqueries, you always write the subquery within brackets. So I am supposed to select the term ID from exam underscore marks underscore db from the data table, from the exam term table within the exam underscore marks underscore db, where the term name is second term. So I'll just run this query. So you get all the details of the subjects, of all the subjects, and now out of these you are supposed to find the highest mark. The highest mark scored obtained by the students for all the subjects in the second term. Okay. Now I'll just filter out the marks. Now we get only the marks. Now as you can see, obviously the highest mark is 98.5. So I'll just see whether you get the exact answer. You just have to use the maximum function. You have to give the name of the column. So I'll just run this query. You get the highest mark. And as an additional point, I'll just rename the column as highest mark. Highest mark obtained for. I'll just replace obtained with score. Score for second term. So once I run this query, you get highest mark scored for second term is 98.5. That's the answer for question number 3. Okay. Now that's the third one. Now we are supposed to find which subject got the highest marks in the second term. Okay. Now in the previous question, we found the subject, the relevant. We found the mark which has the mark which has the highest value for the second term. Okay. Now since you have the mark here, I'll just open another query tab and select all from. I just write the same query, exam underscore marks underscore db dot, and the marks table. Then once you run the query, you get all the details again. Then since you may get, now when you are writing the queries, usually a query is written by a programmer who doesn't work in the database section, so he doesn't know the values inside the tables. So now I have to filter out the relevant subject which has this relevant mark. Now in this case it's very easy since there's only one 98.5 mark, but we don't know that. The programmer doesn't know that because the person who is in charge of the databases know that, but we don't know that. There may be instances where you get more students may get 98.5. So in this case I'm going to just write a general query. So here I just have to give a condition where mark is equal to, if I give here 98.5 and run the query, it gives me all the details like this, but we don't know the total mark, we don't know the highest mark. So if someone is just asked this question without answering the first 3, if he just answers this 4th question, he doesn't know the highest mark yet. We knew the highest mark because we answered question number 3, but a person doesn't know that. So we must find the highest mark, then apply it here. So I'll just write in here and open 2 brackets. So we are going to write another subquery, but the thing is we have already done that because now here we have the highest mark. So what I have to do is I have to just copy this query, then paste it here. Then at last I have to delete this semicolon because the actual query stops from here. So once I run this query, now it gives me all the details of the relevant student who scored the highest mark. But it's not the student we want the subject, we want the relevant subject. Okay. Now I am selecting the subject underscore ID. So once I run this query, I get the subject ID which has the highest mark for the second term. If you clearly understood what I said now I have the subject ID which has the highest mark for the second term. This is the subject which has the, if you can find the relevant subject from the subject table which has this ID, that subject is a subject which has the highest mark in the second term. So now I'll just open another query tab and select that one. So select all from exam underscore marks underscore dd dot. Sorry, I have to select the subject table here. I am searching for the subject. So once I run this query, I get all the details of the subject table. But I want only the subject name. I want only the subject name of the highest mark. Subject underscore name. Now I get only the names. Where the subject underscore ID, the relevant ID, we have the ID here. We can find the subject using the ID. If it's 3, then it's the single language. If it's 2, it's science. If it's 1, it's mathematics. So where the subject ID in, now what we can do is we can smartly copy this query and paste it right here because that query has the ID. Now what we have to do is we have to cancel this semicolon mark, and voila, you have the subject which has the highest mark for the second term. This is the subject. Sinhala language and literature is the subject which has the highest mark for the second term. Okay. That's the end of the fourth question. Now we have 2 more questions. So our next question is find the details of the student who got the highest mark in the second term. Okay. Now I'll just maximize this again. Just close these queries again. So I'm going to start all over again. Select all from, select all from exam underscore marks underscore db dot. This is a table where you have all the marks. It even has the student ID. So if you find the highest mark and find the student ID and find the student ID of the student who has the highest mark, you can find the student. So now what I have to do is I have to just open another query tab, then select all from, I try the same query, the marks table where the exam term underscore ID in, we have to find the ID of the term which the term name is second term. Select term ID from, so you don't put grave essence here. You have to mention the database. So this is the term table where the term underscore name equal second term. Once I run this query, you get all the details of the of all the subjects which the student wrote in the second term. Now I have to find the mark. Now I have to find the maximum mark. So you can straight away write you want the maximum mark. So this is the maximum mark. Okay. Now I have the mark. Now I don't have to do any adjustments because this is not the final answer. I can straight away get this answer. So the highest mark is 98.5. So there's only one answer. Means if you have two 98.5s, that means two students have scored. So but the programmer doesn't know that. So it's better if you write here. Okay, it doesn't matter. So you can write here where you need all the details of the student who scored the mark in, and you can copy this table, you can copy this query. Now we have all the details of the student who scored the highest mark. Now what I need is, now let's go check out the student table. Here you have the student table. You can find the student. So if you are searching for the student and only the student, you need only the first term and the first name and the last name. So what it says, find the details. So I have to find all the details. Okay. Now what I have to do is, what I have to do is, I have to find the student ID of the student who got the highest mark. So this gives all the details, but I only need the student ID. Student underscore index underscore number. There's an extra variable here, I'll just do that. So once you run that, you get the student ID of the student who has the highest mark. Now the next part is very easy. I'll just delete this query. You just have to select all from this database, the data table which is in this database. The table name is student. Where the index number, here the index number should be in. Now the subquery is this. You can just paste it here. Once I run this query, you get all the details of the student who has the highest mark for the second term. Now we knew that the highest mark was obtained for the single subject. So this guy, he scored the highest subject for the second. He scored the highest marks for singular in the second term. Okay. Now let's check the next one. This is the last question. Now the last question, they are asking, find the details of the student who got the highest marks in mathematics for the first term. Now they are asking, generally they are asking the details of the student who got the highest marks for the mathematics for the first term, and they are also asking his class. So if you can understand this, once you run this query, you get the whole details, including only the class ID. You won't get the class. So if you need the class, join to that table. Now here, once you run this query, you get a table. And in that table, you don't have the class. You have only the class ID. But you can join that. You can join the class table with the answer you are getting for the first part and the final part and the final answer you are getting as a table. The final answer you are getting as the table. That is the final answer. That is the final answer for question number 6. Okay. Now there are 2 parts in question number 6 which we should do. That is, you have to write a query to find the details of the student who got the marks for the mathematics for the first term, and you have to find this class. So in order to find the class, we have to use a joint query. Okay. So it's a duo between the joint query and the searching query. So I'll just quickly I'll just show you how that works. Okay. Now I'll just erase the whole part. Just erase the whole part. Now I have to find, select all from exam underscore marks underscore db dot the marks table. Now these are all the details of the students who sat for the exam. So out of these you have to find the student who has the highest mark for the first term, and the subject is mathematics. First we will filter the students who sat for the first term. Okay. Where the exam underscore term underscore ID in, we have to write the subquery. Select the term ID from exam underscore mark underscore db. So you can get the suggestions by clicking on Control plus space. Go. Now in the exam table, where the term underscore name is first term. So once you run this query, you get all the details of the students who sat for the first term. Now I need the students who wrote for the next paper. So I am going to write another condition. You can separate conditions by using the word and the subject underscore ID equal to, I'm going to write another subquery. Select subject ID. Here you have the subject ID from dot, and we are searching for the subject table where the subject underscore name, subject name is mathematics. So once you run the query, you get all the details of the students with their index numbers for the students who sat for mathematics for the first term. Now I need the highest mark. And we'll use this function. And use this function. It says mark. So once I run the query, get the highest mark. Now I have to search for the student who has this highest mark. Okay. Now I can simply open another query tab. Then I can search for all the data again. Select all from exam underscore marks underscore db dot the marks table. I get all the details. Now I need the student ID. I need the student index underscore number of the student where the mark is the highest mark. The mark should be the highest mark. So we have to write this subquery inside that. Just have to copy and paste. So just read the last semicolon. So once you run this query, you get the student ID of the student who got the highest mark. The highest mark. Okay. Now what I have to do is I have to open another query tab and select all from exam underscore marks underscore db dot the student table. Now these are all the details of the students in the table. Now I have to filter out the one who has the highest mark. Where index underscore number in, we have to copy and paste this query. Okay. Now we have all the details of the student who got the highest mark for the subject of mathematics for the first term. Okay. Now the problem is we have first part of our question done, but now we need the class also. We need the class. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select data from this table and I'm going to inner join this with the class table with exam underscore marks underscore db dot the class table, and I'm giving the condition which these are joined, and I'm giving the condition student dot class ID column. The class ID column of the student should be equal to the class ID should be equal to the class ID equal to the class ID of class table. Now once I run this query, you get, now you have the class name as well. But specifically I need only these columns, index underscore number, first name, last name, gender, contact number. I don't need these two. I need only the class name. So I'm just giving the details of the tables. Only I need index underscore number, comma, first underscore name, comma, last underscore name, comma, the gender column ID, comma, the contact underscore number column ID, and finally I need the class name. Now let's run this query. Now we have all the details of the student who got the highest mark for mathematics for the first term, including their class name, including the class which the student is studying. Okay. Now that's the end of question number 6, and that's the end of question number 21 of the database management video series. So I'll see you guys in the next video. The next video of question number 22 of the database management video series. So see you guys then. Bye guys.